lesson on Kabbalah. My name is Ramon Santiago. My Hebrew name is Yaakov Ben Israel. And today we're going to have our first lesson, and it's going to be based basically on an introduction to what Kabbalah is all about. We're going to look at what it is all about, why Kabbalah is wisdom that can help us achieve spirituality. Why Kabbalah is basically different than all other probably wisdoms that we have studied. We're gonna look at some concepts today. We're gonna look at another concepts in other lessons. Today we're just gonna concentrate on what is this all about, and what is the meaning, first of all, the word Kabbalah, and also how we came to the position that we are right now. And this is going to be just a brief introduction to this concept. There's a lot of details that we're going to go in once we go to the intermediate lessons. For now, this course is going to be concentrating on basic stuff, basic concepts, because it's just to introduce you, to give you, to help you learn how to crawl before you can start walking, before you can then, start doing some stuff on your own. The whole point is for you to understand, if you ever read a text of Kabbalah, for you to understand what the text is talking all about, not just read it and come up with some ideas that might be erroneous or different. So this lesson is for the beginner. It's for the person that probably never heard anything about Kabbalah. It's for the person that probably heard about Kabbalah but doesn't know how to apply it into his or her life. So we're going to start these lessons basically in a way that you're gonna be able to understand the language. Eventually, just like today, you're going to see that we're gonna start adding certain Kabbalistic language. And the Kabbalistic language that we're gonna be using is gonna sound very familiar to some religious language, especially if you're Jewish. And if you're Christian, you will understand, this vocabulary as something that is familiar for you. And so to you, it's going to be like, this is what in the Bible says, so and so. And you're going to find that the meaning that you have in your mind, because that's the way, you learn it through religion, is a little bit different than what Kabbalah actually meant. And we're going to look at this concept one by one. We're gonna try not to hurry. You might see that sometimes it's like it's gonna sound like we're beating around the bush and not getting to the point, and there's a reason for it. So don't try to walk before crawling. Right now we're gonna crawl. We're gonna try to go step by step, and you're gonna understand why. At the end, the goal is for you to start studying by yourself, start doing things by yourself, and also, eventually, as you advance, as you understand more and more, you might be able, to help others, teach others as well. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do is the following. We're going to look at the word Kabbalah. So what we're going to do is the following. We're going to look at the word Kabbalah. The word Kabbalah, let's see if this thing works. The word Kabbalah actually means receiving. Let me change the color here just to make sure we're receiving. Okay? The word Kabbalah means receiving. That's what I mean. Receiving. The word Kabbalah means receiving. So, well, receive. What are we receiving? What it is all about? We're gonna talk about what is it that we're receiving, and it's light. We're gonna talk about light, the concept of light a lot, because it's one of the main concepts for us to understand how this creation and universe that we live actually works, and how does actually it creates the whole thing that we call the system of correction, that we were born as when we were one soul, and how we need to go back to that system, to that level of or degree of spirituality that we need to achieve as one humanity, as one soul, as one man with one heart. And we're gonna learn how we fell into this lower realm. And the word Kabbalah actually is just a name given to the wisdom, okay? So don't think the word Kabbalah has any mystical or special meaning. It doesn't. It just means receiving. What are you receiving? The light. What kind of light are you receiving? You're receiving wisdom, the light of wisdom. That's why Kabbalah is spoken as a wisdom. It is described as a wisdom. It is a science, a spiritual science. It's not a mystical tradition, even though it's traditionally taught by Jewish, by Jewish, sages, Jewish wise men that pass their wisdom from them to their disciples. But one thing, like I said, the word Kabbalah has nothing special in it. But one thing that I want you to understand is the following: is that the word Kabbalah in itself has these two letters. These two letters. And keep in mind these two letters, because these two letters are the first letter of the Bible, on the word Bereshit in the beginning, Bereshit, Beit, and also is the last letter in, when I said Bible, I'm talking about the 5 books of Moses. And also at the end of the 5 books of Moses, the last word is Israel. So the Lamed is an L, so you got the Beit, B, and Lamed, L. And these 2 letters, when they're written, we have them here, this way. When these 2 letters are written backwards, the Lamed first and the Beit later, they spell the word for heart. Heart. So the word heart, and some of you that probably have studied Judaism and have actually delved into some of the mystical groups, and also books, probably have heard some teachings of some rabbis that study Kabbalah, or look for some meanings inside the Bibles, beyond just the letters that we have. Some rabbis dedicate their lives basically to look for codes in the Bible. This is a code right here, the Beit and the Lamed in the beginning and in the end of the 5 books of Moses. You're gonna hear that basically the whole Torah talks about what's going on within ourselves, right? So the word lev, which is heart in Hebrew, right? Heart, lev in Hebrew, heart in English, just means in Kabbalah one thing, and that one thing is simply what we call desires. Let's see if I can write. I'm using this thing, for the first time, so have patience. With me? Alright. So basically, our desires. What kind of desires? That's what we're gonna discover. We're gonna see how our desires have actually grown to a point that they have become very egoistic, and they have become um, so dark. And when I say dark, I don't mean dark in an evil sense. Even though you're gonna find that there's evil in the world, there's actually darkness beyond that evil, and is the absence of light that we're gonna be talking about, the light of wisdom of the Creator. And that's why we see, that there's this um, darkness within our heart personally, because what we're gonna see is that a lot of these things that we're gonna study, they're not out there. They're inside us. They're inside ourselves. We might want to try to change the world. We might want to try to change the whole system that surrounds us, as we call it, the environment. But in reality, we're in this environment for a reason. It's the reason for this environment to be the way it is, whether it is good or evil, whether we see it that way, is for us to grow spiritually. It's to push us, to a higher level. But it's up to us to see it that way. So, going back to the word Kabbalah, Kabbalah is just a name given to this wisdom. I'm not going to enter into the history of Kabbalah. That will be a different subject that I will be covering with other videos, in which we're going to be talking about the history of Kabbalah and these personalities and important personalities actually that help develop Kabbalah as we know it today. The first thing, Kabbalah is a new world. A new word in the sense, that if you go back, a lot of years before the medieval times and everything, you may not find the word Kabbalah at all. All you're gonna find is words like Maaseh Bereshit and Maaseh Merkavah. Maaseh Bereshit was a study of creation. Maaseh Merkavah, it was a study about basically the chariots, the visions of the prophets, and how these things actually play out when people see these visions and they enter, this other realm. However, the Kabbalah that we have today has developed beyond that. There's much more information about things, because as a science, if you go to science, you're going to find that whatever Newton found in his discoveries in the past, today science has seen much more than that. Today we have quantum physics. Quantum physics actually goes beyond what Newton, actually found. In fact, what Newton found is considered what we as Kabbalists see as religion, and quantum physics will be for religion, Kabbalah compared with religion. They seem to be like the same thing, science, but they are so apart. They're talking about different things. This is more physical. I can see things falling. It's gravity. Here, it's all abstract, mathematical. In Kabbalah it's like that. It's abstract, mathematical. And one thing that you're gonna understand is the following: is that everything in Kabbalah, every name that we use in Kabbalah for things that are spiritual, are not, the real name. In fact, in spirituality, there's no name for things. We just use names of physical things of the world we live in order to explain, in order to make it easier for us as symbolic animals with brains, understand what this is all about. Because we need symbols. So if I'm gonna talk about, let's say, how the universe works in a way that is all light and darkness, I can use the language of, in a computer you have the ones and the zeros, 1 and the 0, and depending how these are actually put together 110, 0, 111, 111, things like that, we create something. We create a letter, we create a number in the computer, and things like that. It's like a program. In Kabbalah, you're going to see that it's like a program that we need to basically learn that language, that code, in order to achieve what we want to achieve. So Kabbalah was hidden. It's considered hidden wisdom, and it's hidden not because the rabbis wanted to hide this wisdom. It was hidden, of course, to make sure that it didn't fall on the wrong hands in times that we, as human beings, as humanity, were not ready to receive this wisdom. So it was hidden in that sense. That's why the rabbis did a good favor, even though today we go like, why they did that? They did us a good favor by hiding it, because not only they kept it in a way that we today can say we can actually see what the real Kabbalah is all about, but also it was treated different than any other spiritual tradition out there, because Kabbalah is not a spiritual tradition, it's a wisdom, and as a wisdom it needed to be kept somehow pure within this, I would say, package called the Jewish religion, and with these I would say guards and people that will be basically taking care of it like a big treasure, and these people were the Jewish people. So that's why today when we study Kabbalah, there's a lot of Jewish, if not all, there's a lot of Jewish flavor in it. And even though, you're gonna see that this is true, Kabbalah talks about certain things that you might think it actually contradicts what religion teaches. But it's because Kabbalah speaks about spiritual terms, doesn't talk about physical terms. So when we look at Kabbalah, we gotta make sure that we're talking about receiving the wisdom, receiving the light of the Creator. And Kabbalah teaches how to receive properly. Right now we receive egoistically, like we mentioned, the word Kabbalah in the middle has the bait and the lamed, those two letters for the word lev, which is basically heart, the word for heart, which is equals to desires. The desires within men, the desires within us. Okay? So, why Kabbalah was hidden? Kabbalah, the wisdom of Kabbalah, this technology, as some Kabbalists, modern Kabbalists call it, this technology, this system of enlightenment was hidden not by someone, like I mentioned before, not by the rabbis, but by our five senses. Why is hidden by our five senses? It is hidden by our five senses in the sense that we lack a special sense, and that sense is a sense that can only be developed as we learn about spirituality, as we learn about what's the real work that we need to do in spirituality. That sense is the only way that we can receive this light without breaking. And we're going to talk about that breaking a lot. That breaking can confuse you, can make you think about Kabbalah that are not correct, can make you do things that are incorrect. And you might think, you're doing Kabbalistic things, but in reality you're not. And what is this? When you look actually at your five senses, the first thing, for example, touch. To touch to feel touch. When I touch something, I touch it with my skin, right? My brain calculates and creates this sense of feeling that I'm touching with my skin. So I need some kind of, I will say, screen or kind of like something against what I'm trying to capture with my mind and brain in order to sense it. So right now, this screen, this force that is opposite to what I want to experience is called sense of touch. And my brain can feel, what I'm touching. Same thing with the eyes, vision. If you study anatomy, you learn probably that there's some cells inside our eyes that capture the light. That's a screen as well, right? It goes through lenses. Somehow the brain turns the image, from upside down to straight. Brain is a very complicated machine that does these nice things. And when it captures the lights, these lights, color of the lights actually, it creates an image in our brain. That image actually helps us sense what is around us in forms and colors. The sense of smell. We smell, and these actually molecules going through our nose that get basically hit some cells and inside our nose that make us smell, sense the air, sense what is out there. Right? That's another screen. Taste. Our tongues, we have the taste buds, right? The tongue, right there, that's a screen that when we eat something, we will know if it's salty, if it's sweet, bitter. So that's another screen. Or ears. When we hear, we have eardrums. Very obvious screen right there. Sound waves come into our ears and may vibrate that eardrum. That eardrum, in a very nice way, there's a system in there with little bones and a cochlea and everything, that makes that sound somehow be detected by the brain and decoded by the brain. And we can hear our surroundings. So there's 5 senses. And all of them have something in common, is a screen. Something has to hit something in order for that to be perceived. In spirituality, we need the same thing. In spirituality, we're going to need something called a screen. And this screen is a screen that we don't have physically. In fact, the fact that we use a kippah is a symbol, to remind us of having that screen when we receive the light. It's a symbolism of the uniform that some of us use in order, to remind us of the spiritual purpose of the work we're doing, the spiritual purpose of the things we do. So here's the thing: you need a screen. You need a screen. But in order for us to develop this screen, we need to fight against a force that is against that work that we want to do. And the reason we don't have that screen, the reason we are basically broken as a human race, as I see myself as myself, and I see you as you, apart from me, different than me, we have nothing to do with each other, is because something called egoism. Egoism is what actually asks us, what is there for me? In fact, you might be studying Kabbalah because you might have heard that there's a lot of things in Kabbalah that can help me have a better life. I'm going to tell you, by my own experience, that's not it. If not, life gets actually harder because you start actually minding about the things that you do and checking yourself out. And people say things to you and treat you a certain way, and you have to fight against your egoistic nature because it tells you, you want to fight back. But in reality, you have to understand that what you see in that person, what that person is doing to you, is actually a reflection of who you are and what you're doing with your life. So see it that way. So anyway, egoism. Egoism is this program inside ourselves that is always looking for what is there for me. It's pure receiving, receiving only for me, only for the sake of fulfilling my own vessels, my own desires. And what you're going to find is that this egoistic desire is never satisfied. It never satisfies itself. It always tries to find something different in order to continue feeding itself. So you will have the following. You may want to win the lottery, and you play, and you wish egoistically to win the lottery. And you win it. That's why everybody plays lottery. They want to be, somehow having a comfortable life. You win the lottery, and you think that having that money will give you pleasure. And what you find is that actually it doesn't. It doesn't give you any pleasure. When you have that money, all of a sudden, other desires appear. Egoistic desire. Now you want to use this money to fulfill, let's say, some other desire. Now I want this big house. You win the lottery with $1 million, but you want a house that is worth $500,000. By the time you start fulfilling your dreams, and they become nightmares because it was all egoistically designed in your brain. You're following that program of egoism. So you gotta fight against that program of egoism. And Kabbalah teaches you how to do that. And because of that egoistic nature in us, and because this constant fulfilled desire is that we live in pain, where we live unhappy, and we try to look for happiness, and we try to go to these people, gurus of modern society, that are gonna give you the words that you want to hear in order to make you feel good. In Kabbalah, you will not feel good. When we talk in Kabbalah, we talk about internal work. It's working with you, and it's all about your work in a way that you start, or you must start, thinking about loving your friend, your neighbor, as yourself. And that's really hard. The difference between Kabbalah and all these other traditions from the Far East is that Kabbalah works in the environment that you are. You don't need to go to any holy land. You don't need to go to any temple in a land far away. All you need to do is work where you are. Your holy land is where you are right now. That's where you're gonna find your work. And it's very interesting, to see how this is true. There's a name for the egoistic desire. And I want you to take note of these 3 words. Will to receive. We have a will to receive. Our will to receive is egoistic. There's another desire, and take note of that. It's called will to give, or will to bestow. They're two different. They're opposite to each other. One wants to give, right? One wants to give. The other one wants to receive. So, like I'm saying, the vessel receives, right? They're opposite, and they are within you. Study these two desires within yourself, and you're gonna see that any time, this is a homework actually, any time that you want to give something, you're actually doing calculations in your brain about how good I'm gonna feel when I do this, because it is all egoistic. The egoistic desire is like that. It tricks you into thinking that you're doing things without any egoistic intention. But everything is egoistic. In fact, everything that we do in life has some kind of egoism in it. The only difference is if we change something called intention and make a note of that. There's a will to receive, there's a will to give. If there's no screen, light goes in, breaks that, mixes the desires to give and the desires to receive, and mix them. You can give, but it's egoistic. But what if I have my vessel and I have a screen on top of it? So let me add something here to make it more clear. Alright, so let's go to the board. So this is what we're talking about. See if I can have some kind of shapes in here to make it look better. Alright, so it has shape in here. So let's say this is the vessel. This is the vessel, right? And take note of this because this vessel, we're gonna call it, make sure I change the color, will to receive. Okay? This is our will to receive, right here. We're gonna have a desire. And this desire comes from above. This is a desire from the Creator itself. And this desire is actually will to bestow. I'll make sure. Will to bestow, right? I think the system just crashed. I have to try again. There you go. Okay, there it is. Alright, so we're will to bestow. Okay, so will to bestow, I'll put it here. So we have these two forces. Like I said, we have two forces here working against each other. And we actually have to make sure that when we receive, when this force goes in, that we're not receiving in order to receive. When you receive in order to receive, that's super egoistic. That's basically what we call a sin, evil, right? Remember, the words I'm using are gonna sound religious, but they're not. When I talk about sin, evil, I'm not meaning the sin and the evil that you learn in religion, okay? We're gonna explain that later. So, we got the will to receive, right? We have the will to receive. The will to receive wants to give to this vessel over here, which is will to receive here. I mean, will to bestow wants to give to the will to receive. So this is will to receive in here, will to bestow. We need something, right? If we receive, if the will to bestow gives to the will to receive, it will break it. It will break it and makes both the will to bestow with the will to receive, and any action we make, even though they might look good in front of others, even though we might feel good about them, the feeling good is actually egoistic, right? There's something called pleasure, you know, basically the creator is somewhere in here, and he's the one that wants basically to give. He wants to give, but this person here, right, this vessel here, has to be able to receive properly. So in order to do that, and we're gonna learn this in our intermediate, if not, sometime, in the beginner's lesson, the light of this creator start giving some pressure around this vessel. That pressure from the creator feels like pain. In Kabbalah, they have a name for this type of pressure, this type of way of living. It's called a path of pain. It's when you're totally egoistic and your desires are never satisfied. You're never happy. You're never satisfied. You want to do things even if it means, destroying other people, stepping over other people, destroying relationships and all that. That's the real sin. Everything that separates. And that's anything that separates, any action that separates, that's a real sin. Action that separates. I didn't say, like we learn in religion. Any action that separates, it's the same. So like we said, so this creature here, this vessel, this will to receive, is feeling the pressure. It's feeling that it needs to do something, but it doesn't know why. That's actually you and me, that's when Kabbalah comes in and tells us, hey, there's something you can do with your will to receive, and that's called create a different sense in you. What kind of sense is that? That sense is called a screen. You create a screen. That screen is going to be important. That screen is called an intention. Basically, what you need to do is change your intention. Change your intention. That's what you're going to hear in religious circles. They're going to tell you, you got to have a relationship with your creator. You need to have that relationship with the creator. You need to have that relationship with God. Well, it's all about the intention. If your intention is to become a religious person and then point fingers at others, then your intention is egoistic. You're mixing the good with the evil. That doesn't work. That's still not good. We need to correct, those egoistic desires. We need to do something good. And when you change your intention, I'm going to learn certain things, and it's going to be because I want to be a better person. I want to be a better source of life for humanity. You got to change your intention. Your intention is going to be the key for success in spirituality. Not religion, not what the rabbi says, it's your intention. So this is what's going to happen. You change your intention, then the creator says, I'm going to send light to the vessel. There's something very interesting that happened here. In order for you to receive properly, right, you're going to want to give back. Why? Because there's some type of shame on receiving everything without giving back. And this is something that we're going to be talking about. When you realize I'm receiving, and now you want to receive in order to be able to give back to the giver, you develop a sense of what the Kabbalists call shame, but it's not really shame. It's a desire to be similar to the giver. But the only difference is that the only way to be similar to the giver is by receiving the pleasure of the person that is giving to you, in this case the creator, right? And changing the intention. My intention is not to receive his food because I am hungry. Yes, I am hungry. I am a desire to receive. I need it. But also, if I don't eat it, I'm making the person that is giving me the food feel bad. So how can I make this a win-win situation? I receive it because I'm hungry, but I will eat it with a different intention. That person that is giving me the food wants to feel pleasure to see me eating his or her food that she prepared or he prepared just for me. So I eat it, and I'm feeling the pleasure, and I'm fulfilling also my desire to not feel hungry anymore, and also fulfilling the desire of the giver to bestow to me that food. So we have a win-win situation. Both of us are basically happy and feeling pleasure. I'm feeling the pleasure of eating the food, and the other one is feeling the pleasure of seeing you satisfying yourself and enjoying the food that this person prepares specially just for you. So that's a way a relationship with the Creator is. We need to change the way we see things. We're gonna see out there a lot of people telling you about certain things, all about you changing the way you think to attract material things. And yes, it's true. There's a law that's called the law of attraction, but you don't want to attract more egoistic desires to your life. All you're attracting is things to satisfy your egoistic desires. How about you changing your intention and trying to look for something different? Try to look for something like a light. How can I become a light to the world? That will change everything around me. Then I will be satisfied with the little things that I have. I don't need to be suffering, because that's what you see. These people make millions of dollars, talking to people that are feeling, they're suffering actually, they're feeling pain because they cannot fulfill the dreams of their lives. And it's because they have no purpose, they have no real intention. Or the intention that they have is the wrong one, and the purpose they have is the wrong one. The intention is just to get rich materially, and the purpose is to fulfill egoistic desires. And it sounds beautiful and everything, but it's not it. And you're gonna find people that use Kabbalah actually to teach you that, and that's actually wrong. It's not that simple. It's much more spiritual work. All right. So after these concepts, make sure that you, after we talk about this concept today, make sure that you keep in mind, and like I said, your homework is going to be after this lesson to think about will to bestow, will to receive, and intention. So I am a will to receive. I am a human being. I'm all a will to receive. The will to bestow, it's the Creator. The Creator wants to give us light. We need to be receivers of that light. Thus, the word Kabbalah. But in order for me to receive without breaking that and mixing the good and the evil within my actions, whether they're, remember when I talk about action, I'm not talking only about physical action, I'm also talking about spiritual actions. So the way I change my intentions, that will separate those two and make them work. They would be working together instead of against each other. Instead of mixing themselves and creating chaos, they will work in harmony, right? And that's what we need to do. We need to change our intention. So let's recap a little when we talk. Kabbalah. Kabbalah is a new word, a new name for a wisdom that have existed, throughout the years. In the past, it was known as Maaseh Bereshit, Maaseh Merkavah. It's a wisdom. It's a wisdom that was hidden, not by the rabbis, not by the Jewish people. It was contained within those groups of people in order to be kept until the time, which is now, until this time in which it can be revealed to all all the masses. Um, Also, Kabbalah as a wisdom has developed throughout time, and like I said, we're gonna touch those subjects, in other lessons. Um, we're gonna be also talking about the subject that we just talked about, will to bestow, will to receive, and intention in the next lesson, um, especially about desire. Desire is a very important topic in Kabbalah. So one thing that we need to keep in mind is that the word Kabbalah in the middle has the word lev, which is heart, and the word heart, has to do with our desires. And we're going to talk about desires in our following lesson. Now, the homework, like I said, is going to be the following. We talk about the will to receive. We talk also about the will to bestow, and we talk about intention. We're going to be talking about that a lot. Eventually, we're going to talk about how these two mix and create, I would say like a four level, I would say, levels of desires when they mix. And this is when we touch about the vessels and how to break and everything. And how, even our soul broke when Adam Harishon, the first Adam, which is the Adam of the Bible, and broke. So think about that. Think about those words. Think about will to receive, will to bestow, intention. How egoistic my actions are. So when you do something during these days, think about how you feel, what you were thinking. Examine your thinking. You're going to see that it has something to do with what is there for me, what I can get out of this situation, and how can I make myself feel pleasure of what I'm doing. But you're going to see that pleasure is very egoistic. Also think about your intention. Was your intention really to satisfy the hunger of that person that you gave food, or your intention was actually for you to feel, pleasure? Because then, now you're in the position of a giver, but a giver with egoistic intentions. So the intention is very important. Think about your intention. How can I change my intentions in the actions that I'm taking, especially those actions that I think are very unegoistic, they're actually altruistic. I'm trying to help people out, and Kabbalah tells me I'm not doing it. I'm just satisfying some physical desire of another person, but I'm not fulfilling anything. At least I did something good. I understand there's a mix of good and evil. You're doing good, but the intention is not the right one. Intention is about what is there for you. Okay? Now, very important, our teachings are going to be based on one book. And this book is very important. In fact, pretty soon I'm probably going to have a book out there with some of the information that we're going to be using in these lessons that you can actually look up later on Amazon. We're talking about the book of Bereshit. Bereshit means in the beginning. That's the first word in Genesis 1:1, the first Hebrew word, Bereshit. Remember that I told you about the bait. So this is the first letter right here. And it's very important to keep in mind that we're going to be actually using that book as a guide for the work that we're going to be talking about. To the point that it's because of that book that we are going to understand why we are in the situation we are as human beings. There's a whole poetic, metaphoric story there, the story of Adam and Chava, Eve, and the Nahash, the serpent, and the Etz HaChaim, which is the tree of life, and Etz HaDa'at, and you're gonna see that all this symbolism and everything is gonna come to life once we go first through these little steps that I'm trying to take you to understand first where you are as a person, to create that vessel, to create that desire, to create a proper intention to learn this wisdom. And then when we go to the book of Bereshit, you have already this foundation that you're gonna see this book in a different way. And you're gonna see that this book is much more than what religion was actually teaching you about. And it's wonderful. It's gonna be something that it blew my mind, the things that I learned when I was studying the book of Bereshit through the eyes of Kabbalah. And it's really interesting. And I'm going to share, all that with you. So I'll leave you with those thoughts about will to receive, will to bestow, intention, and also understand that all the wisdom that we are going to be learning, the wisdom of Kabbalah, is all about our heart. And we're going to talk about what is the work of the heart, what is it that we need to do, in our following lessons. So I hope you come back again, and we meet again in our following lesson, and that eventually you participate with us, and understand, more concepts. Because the whole point, like I said, the whole goal is to make sure that you understand when you read a Kabbalistic book that you know what it's talking about, that you don't create these ideas. It happened to me when I started until I got the right guidance, and then I understood that everything that is talking in there is just a way of understanding the open realm using the language of the physical reality. Okay, so I leave you there. Thank you very much for being with us. I'll see you in the next lesson.